If you've ever played in a BDSM scene before, you have likely encountered a variety of sensations and emotions that far exceeded the mere sexual experience. And that's because BDSM has the power to stimulate multiple arousal points for an intensely immersive experience. So stay tuned today if you want to discover exactly how to access these various points of arousal in your own play. If you're new to this channel, hello and welcome. I'm Miss LX and I'm so glad you're here because understanding the various points of arousal possible for a BDSM experience will allow you to access each facet of pleasure whenever it serves you and your dynamic the best. So let's start off today by breaking down the types of arousal available to you in your kinky encounters. First, there is the obvious sexual arousal. This is the desire to engage sexually with the other player or players based on mental and emotional chemistry, physical attraction, kinky compatibility, and other personal factors that awaken a sexual response. Secondly, there's kink arousal, which is the desire to engage with a specific fetish or type of BDSM play, which can include sexual arousal or not. And finally, we have dominant and submissive arousal, which are the erotic and physiological responses of operating in either a dominant or submissive role, most commonly referred to as flow for dominance and subspace or transient hypofrontality for submissives. In a state of flow, dominants experience intense focus, concentration, and a maximum sense of confidence and decisiveness. For submissives in subspace, they often experience a deeply peaceful and meditative state, feelings of weightlessness or floating, significant time distortions, and even an elevated state of consciousness similar to a runner's high or the release from an intense yoga practice. Now, here's the thing about these four arousal types. None are mutually exclusive. In other words, you can experience all four arousal types within a scene or just one or two of your choosing. As I frequently say, BDSM is not a closet to come out of, but a buffet to choose from. You are always in full control of your consent and what goes on your kinky plate. So, let me walk you through a simple case study to illustrate how these types of arousal can both manifest and influence your scene or play. Alice and Brian are both switch types in a romantic relationship who engage in BDSM play on a scene-to-scene basis. Alice is a dominant switch with a masochistic side who loves to bottom for impact play. Brian is a submissive switch with a penchant for chastity and boot worship. They have thoroughly negotiated and reached a clear agreement on their desires and limits, and safe words have been established. In other words, Alice and Brian are ready to play. So let's take a look at a few possible scenarios this switch dynamic might encounter and see how our four arousal types can radically shift within each scene. Scenario 1. Alice tops a scene in which she places Brian in chastity and commands him to focus solely on her sexual pleasure. Scenario 2. Brian asks Alice to top a scene in which she receives boot worship from Brian and flogs him if his performance is subpar. Scenario 3. Alice asks Brian to top a role-play scene in which she is being punished for being a naughty, disruptive student by Brian, her teacher. And Scenario 4. Brian tops a scene in which he leads Alice through a cathartic over-the-knee spanking followed by mutual sexual release. So let's break down these four examples and determine the arousal types that manifested in each scene. In Scenario 1, we have Alice's sexual and dominant arousal matched with Brian's kink and submissive arousal. In Scenario 2, we see Brian's kink and submissive arousal that will likely lead to sexual arousal matched solely with Alice's dominant arousal. In scenario 3, Alice experiences both kink and submissive arousal, which will likely lead to sexual arousal, matched with either Brian's dominant arousal, which has been activated by switching in this way, or his submissive arousal, which has been activated by serving as Alice's top in her requested roleplay. And in scenario 4, Brian could experience either dominant or submissive arousal for the factors we just listed in the last point, as he also experiences sexual arousal. Subsequently, in the final scene, Alice experiences sexual, kink, and submissive arousal. And those, my friends, are just 4 examples of the beauty of BDSM. There's more than one way to experience pleasure and connection in this lifestyle, by yourself or with a partner. You're not limited to mere genitalia, rote positions, or bland encounters. You have the power to leverage multiple aspects of pleasure for the kind of connection and experience you and your partner wish to have. So I hope this helped clarify for you just how diverse of an experience healthy BDSM play can be, and I hope you feel empowered to find your unique pleasure. And be sure you're subscribed and have those notifications turned on, because next week I'm simplifying one of the most confusing principles in BDSM, the difference between punishments and funishments.